Hey, everybody, this is Mike Dorsey with Tennessee People and Trees, and I have a really awesome conversation that's about to go down. And this is with the actual new president of the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council, Neil Letson. And Neil's currently based out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but he spent the last 30 years in urban forestry in the state of Alabama. So he brings a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, but he also has a concept that's pretty unique that I think I want everyone to really pay attention to. And that's the concept of trees serving as a bonding agent between people. Trees serving as a bonding agent between people. So, fellows and ladies and everybody listening, let's welcome my man Neil Letson. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mike.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And thank you for taking time to speak with us for episode 3 of Tennessee People and Trees.
Glad to be on board.
Awesome, awesome. So I mentioned that you spent 30 years in urban forestry in the state of Alabama. Kind of walk us through, your career path a little bit. Well, actually, before we get into your career path, take us back even further. What inspired you to jump into the world of urban forestry as a career?
Mike, I used to ask that question of some of the old timers in the Forestry Commission and landowners, what got them involved. But now I'm at that stage where, it's something that I look back on as well. And one event came to mind when you asked that question, and that was in Mobile, where I grew up. My dad had moved our family from Atlanta to Mobile to start his firm in the city. He got a good contract there. But anyway, we were a new family in the neighborhood and trying to fit in. And my dad was busy trying to start his business with his partners, and he spent less and less time at home. So I kind of learned that any moment I had with my dad was going to be important to me. And one Saturday, I'll never forget it, he came home and he said, "Neil, I want you to come outside and help me with this project." So I went out, and in the back of the car, he had 6 one-gallon containers of these pine trees that he was going to want to plant in our side yard. And I spent, that morning helping him plant those trees. And years later, when I worked with the state, I had a lot of opportunities to go to Mobile. And whenever I had a chance to, I would drive by the old house just to see how those trees were doing, because it had kind of an emotional attachment to me. And as a professional forester, the graduate forester and state employee, you kind of work with other folks and their emotions and their needs for trees. But I realized that I had that same connection. Now, I won't say that's what got me involved in forestry, but it was one of those sort of self-defining moments of connection with my dad. And it was through. So if I ever get a chance to go back to Mobile again, and it's a long ways off, that will be one place that I want to go back and see, because it brings back good memories that I had with my pop.
That's amazing.
But later on, I grew up in the city, so it doesn't seem. I went into forestry, got a forestry degree, and city kid getting a forestry degree, I was kind of an anomaly. But when I was at school at University of Tennessee, they allowed us to choose electives for our bachelor's of science in forestry. And I look back, and I could tell back then I was interested in the connection that trees and forestry had in cities. And this was back in the 70s.
Wow.
When urban forestry really was not well known. And I took electives like journalism, public relations, urban planning. I got my hands on a book that was produced by the U.S. government that showed the benefits of trees in cities. And I sort of self-developed my own minor discipline in the forestry degree, not knowing where it would lead or even if there was going to be a job opportunity. But I guess, Mike, what I'm trying to say is there's something that was inside me that still had that urban foundation or value. In it, I was very interested and concerned about conservation, natural resources. And I just, it was something that I couldn't separate back then. And God willing, and I feel like God had his hand on me. It prepared me very well for the career I had, that long career I had with the Forestry Commission in urban forestry. So it was nothing I really planned, but I think it's something that was part of me that was down deep, that trees are important in our cities, and they provide values to people. And I just wanted to be a part of making that happen wherever I had a job.
That's, the powerful thing about your conversation or about your story is you talk about that spark from planting a tree, opened up the window for you to bond with your father. Like that was something that stayed inside of you no matter what. And even to this day, if you're ever in Mobile, you want to ride by and kind of check the status on the trees that you and your father planted years ago. But then as you kind of matriculated into education and you looked at forestry as an opportunity, the whole notion of how trees connect to people has always kind of been at the forefront of your conversation here. And it kind of leads me into this whole concept of trees as a bonding agent between people, because on a personal level, planting those trees served as a bonding agent between you and your busy dad. But then you started looking at the academic portion or the scientific studies and the things of that sort that then connected people to trees, or the value of healthy trees to communities or to urban planning and all of that. It comes back to this whole concept of trees as this bonding agent between people. Like that's a powerful thing, man.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, we're probably one of the few generations, maybe the last 2 or 3 generations, that really has a disconnect with our natural resources. But if you're ever like one of the astronauts that circle over the Earth, one of the things I always observe is how beautiful the Earth is, and how self-contained it is, and how everybody lives on this one planet that is sustained by natural resources and elements that keep life. And it's something that's, I think, innate in us, and we run the risk of losing that connection with more and more of us living in cities and depending on grocery markets to produce food, or what all the things that we live depend on to survive for life. And I feel like that's another purpose, at least in my life, is to help people in cities reconnect with the natural resources of which sustains us in our life.
Oh wow.
And I think that value that was within me, that connected me to trees early in my life and my career, I think that's in everybody. Because whenever I'm involved or have an opportunity to see a tree project, especially like a tree planting project where they ask for volunteers to help plant trees along a creek side or in a city park, if you ever go to one of those, you'll notice that it represents society. It's a very diverse group. Wow. It's not one set of people, one age, one race, one economic. It's one of the few things that you'll see in our cities that brings people together towards a common cause. So maybe we're kind of getting too
no, this is
here, but
this is awesome.
In a lot of ways, that's why I think that trees can be something that we can promote in our cities, involve folks to help bring us together again like we used to be, to help build community, to help define our towns as good places to live, and to help inspire people to do other good things for their fellow citizens and for their community. I think it's as big as that.
That's and the thing is, it's as big as that, but then it's also as simple as just being mindful and aware of the natural resources that are at, basically in our midst, right? Because to your point, this also helps me to think about life from the perspective of not taking things for granted. So if you're not from the world of trees and you're not from forestry, or you're not in this world, you a lot of times take for granted the trees. But to your point, the value that tree provides to your neighborhood, the oxygen, the shade, the nutrients, the ecosystem that lives around that tree, all of these things come into play, and we sometimes overlook that. So I think for someone who's maybe not connected to the world of forestry or connected to the world of trees, so to speak, step one could be to just take a step back and observe the nature that's around you, these natural surroundings. We can then go into planting trees and, landscaping and, doing urban planning and all that to add more into, urbanized areas. But I think for a lot of us, it's taking time to really be mindful of what's around you and and just seeing that beauty, seeing that value, but understanding how that really adds to the well-being of you and the community around you.
It is. Now, and the exciting thing about it, and which makes me sometimes wish that I were 45 years younger and starting my career now, is we've learned so much more today about our connection to our natural resources, our interdependency on them, and the ways that our natural resources, forests, benefit us as human beings. And we think of the shade and the air quality, but there are actually some health benefits some of the research papers are really exciting to see that just walking or spending 30 minutes a day in a green wooded area reduces your stress levels. It helps your mood, your psychology. It reduces the need for medications and all kinds.
Wow.
And they're just scratching the surface. So I hope that this kind of information is made available to the public, and like you say, will encourage and empower people to go find ways that they can enjoy our natural resources in our cities, plant a tree, walk along a greenway, or support your city's Arbor Day program, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's many positive things that can improve our lives if we get more engaged with it. And I will say, Mike, that this is, even though the research is out there, I think people, and then over my career, I realized that a lot of folks have felt this way for years and have laid a foundation and a legacy for all of us to follow. And everywhere I went throughout my career, and the people I met, didn't matter who it was, big town, small town, these same values were being held and shared by folks. And I saw little communities doing things in major ways to improve their communities through trees. So it's really just, I think, something that we should embrace and promote more. And that's kind of my mission in the last quarter of my life,
Mm-hmm.
is to volunteer and be involved in organizations like the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. And I hope people watching this that aren't members will join. Great
Absolutely.
organization. But I want to be involved in not just myself, but with other people in trying to increase the urban forests of our communities.
Man, you said a lot there, but everything you said, I can agree with and I can endorse. And again, we're speaking with Neil Letson. He is the president of the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. And we're speaking to him on this concept that he and I discussed actually prior to this call, trees serving as the bonding agent between people. And it's this concept or this connectivity between people and trees. And so he brings a lot of points to the table and a lot of experience. He brought it from the standpoint of his personal interactions or relationships. But then as he kind of jumped into his professional life, the research and the experiences and the connectivity that's all there kind of woven in this whole tree to person connectivity relationship here, which in essence is the basis for Tennessee People and Trees. This episode 3 that you're currently listening to. Again, we're with Neil Letson, the president of the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. And, just kind of getting his experience, his expertise. And, and I hope this inspires each one of you all to take a moment to at least enjoy, those natural surroundings around you and be appreciative of that. I mean, especially here in the state of Tennessee, we have a lot at our disposal and we need to take advantage of.
Exactly. And Mike, you're young enough, but I think that for the folks watching this, I hope that, perhaps they have been kind of thinking about what they might do. Or even, I think a lot of folks maybe struggle with seeing how trees are neglected in their community,
Mm-hmm.
maybe development or that, or whatever it may be. But I really feel like the power in bringing trees back into our lives really rest in the individuals, the citizens. And it's my hope, and through this message here, that we might inspire people to look for ways that they can get involved in their community. And that's one of the things that the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council is trying to do. There's a lot of great organizations, the state forestry agencies, and that do wonderful things, but they really rely on citizens being active the local level. And I just think that there's a lot of opportunities for them if they will look to get involved in their community. And that's probably our next biggest challenge right now, is to engage our citizens more
Yes.
directly and in their local programs, their tree programs.
And to your point, I mean, if folks really wanted to kind of get a little bit more about what it is we have going on, you can definitely visit TUFC.com, www.tufc.com, which is the website for the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. You can get a gist of some of the programs, some of the initiatives, and some of the things that we have going on. And, you know, this organization has been in existence since 1992. And so it's a lot of things that have taken place throughout the state of Tennessee. And definitely visit TUFC.com. If you're not a member, definitely be open to joining and becoming a part of this organization as we build, as we restructure, as we look for opportunities to, again, connect people to trees to help build healthier communities throughout the state of Tennessee. So definitely check that out and take heed to the info and the inspiration that was dropped by Neil Letson here, because I think these are some things that you all can take action on, but also things that you can, at least, if you don't want to take action, at least just listen to and think about. Because if you think about it enough, eventually you'll take action.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
You know, Mike, as we were talking about that, and I know you're asking the questions, but it made me think of the individual impact and how they affect, you know, people, you know, you and me.
Yes.
And there were hundreds of people that I ran across that were doing exactly the things you're talking about at the local level, that not just making a difference in that community with the trees, but were inspirational to me as a state program administrator of an urban forestry program and to our agency. So I was remembering a situation, and gosh, there's so many of them. One was in Dothan after the Hurricane Ivan, I think it swept through South Alabama. There's so many, it's hard to remember, but we had a meeting with the officials down there on how to reboot their tree programs. Could we help them with tree plantings? And they had a very influential, powerful banker that was at the meeting. You never know who's going to show up at these things.
Absolutely.
And he had it, and we gave our little pitch. Do you need any help from us? And then he spoke up and said, well, you know, all I know is the day after that hurricane, when it swept through our community, all the trees were gone. He was walking on his way to the bank, and all the trees were gone. And he said, it was like a dagger in my heart, and something was missing, and our town was missing that couldn't be replaced, which it could be. But it inspired me that, you know, of what we were talking about earlier, and I kind of wanted to make sure we didn't leave, or at least that note of what it meant to that person. And I just, you know, I'm trying to think of I'm thinking of other people, these incidences where just a common, just an individual citizen wanted to do something to bring those trees back. And they've done so much. And I know in Alabama, much of our urban forestry programming was, you know, accomplished by these citizens, but we've got to tap into that, Mike. What is there in Tennessee or any other state that's watching that? The citizens, they want to get involved, they care for their trees, and we shouldn't ignore that or neglect it, and we should find ways of tapping into it.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. We have to engage, and we're going to do more of that throughout the state. And, you know, what's interesting is we currently have a partnership with the Tennessee Division of Forestry with the TAPE planting grants, or the Tennessee Agricultural Enhancement Program planting grants. And so there are various municipalities throughout the state of Tennessee that submitted for a planting grant in which they're actually going to receive funds to do tree plantings within their municipalities for this upcoming calendar year. So that's a partnership that we have with the Tennessee Division of Forestry to execute on that. And so that's a way that municipalities are kind of getting into the game of, you know, planting trees and, you know, helping to beautify cities and add canopy and, you know, add to these value propositions that increase the, you know, the livelihoods of the community members. They're doing that, But like Neil mentioned, we can also do that on an individual level. So let's not miss out on opportunities on an individual level to get engaged, to do our part, to help make these communities better and healthier for ourselves, but then also those that are following us.
Exactly. And, each town is so unique that the opportunities and the benefits are very different from community to community. I know that TAPE program, a lot of those communities use grants to solve problems that exist in the community, like riparian areas or watersheds where the trees have been removed, and they use that TAPE grant to restore the trees to provide the filtration and the stormwater runoff. But there's a lot of opportunities in our communities to solve strategic issues to make their community better. It's more than just planting a tree. It's
Absolutely.
doing it strategically. So I hope folks will look at that TAPE program as future announcements are made available. But also, even if it's not a TAPE program, but work with their community to solve some of those local issues through tree planting. That TAPE program is an excellent one.
Absolutely. And for information on that, you can definitely visit TUFC.com and click on the programs, and you'll see the TAPE Planting Grant Program and some information that we have there available that shows our partnership and connection with the Tennessee Division of Forestry, with the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. So, Neil, as we kind of wrap this episode of Tennessee People and Trees up, is there anything else you'd like to leave to the folks listening, to the residents of Tennessee, or just anybody? Because you know what? Anybody listening to this doesn't have to be within the state of Tennessee. So any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with, my man?
Well, maybe I could just encourage the young parents that have children and worry about their future, Mike, and what world we're going to leave in them. And just keep in mind that a lot of times we do things for us in the present generation, but with tree planting, it is such a selfish act. We're also doing it for future generations. And it's a wonderful thing and a wonderful experience for your children if you can involve them in tree planting projects as a family or as friends or whatever it may be, but to make sure that the youth and the young people of our world are left with a legacy that they can be proud that we left them, and also one that they will continue with their children and their children's children. So it has impacts not just for us today, but for the future as well. Let's just do it.
Just do it. I don't think it's a better way to end, but to say, just do it. Get out and plant a tree. Get out and connect with the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council. Visit TUFC.com. Reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. If you'd love to join, click join and become a member. And we look forward to engaging with you all in the very near future. And until next time, this has been an episode of Tennessee People and Trees, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.